Good afternoon. We are here talking today with two legends in the community theater world, director Leeds Bird and music director Kevin Cole, although sometimes they act and sometimes they sing and they do all sorts of things, okay? And their history goes back, if you can believe it, 44 years and 25 shows coming up next week. That's a whole lot of shows. And of course, Kevin must have been a baby then, right? No, I'm
Yeah, well, 14.
Kevin was 14 years old and auditioned for Anything Goes, and there was no part in Anything Goes for a 14-year-old. But
Okay.
he was so interested that I created a part. It takes place on a cruise ship. Why
Yeah,
can't you have a cabin boy? So I
exactly.
created a cabin boy, and he fit into a couple of numbers. I also cast the daughter of a performer who was already in the show, who was Kevin's age, and then the two of them got to sing and dance with Reno Sweeney's chorus girls.
Okay.
So it was fun for him.
So this started out when he was in high school, correct?
Yes, and the
Yeah,
following year, as a sophomore, I actually played in the rock band for Leeds' production of Godspell at Garber High School.
Oh, wow. Okay. All
So I
right.
got to do the original score,
Yep.
and they were pretty cutting edge because the show came out in 71, and this is 1975, I believe.
Oh, that is
So,
pretty good. Yeah.
yeah, so I got a chance to not work with Leeds then, but to play in the band for one of his productions, and it happened to be Godspell.
Okay. And that's, by the way, people, we'll get to it in a minute. They're doing Godspell again.
Yeah.
So of the 25 shows, which Godspell will be the 25th, I had asked earlier before we got interrupted on this broadcast, if they're all Bay City players, and Leeds said actually no, that you traveled to where?
We've worked together in Chicago, in Kentucky, in Philadelphia, Northern Michigan. What am I missing?
No, I think you covered it.
That's
Yep.
pretty much,
I
yep,
thought
yep,
there
yep.
was one missing.
Well,
And-
we did a backers audition in Connecticut.
Oh, that's
Okay.
right.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
That was fantastic. It was just
Yeah.
like the movies, except they didn't want to really back the show. They wanted Kevin and not the show, and so
Ouch. So of those have all pretty much been, as we say, book already written, but you two have also co-written a couple of pieces, correct?
yes,
Yes.
we have.
So tell
We've
us
done
briefly.
multiple reviews over the years
True.
of certain songwriters, but also a variety evening of things from shows. Leeds has certainly directed me and coached me in many of my single solo concert shows over the years. And then in more recent time, in 2007, we produced our own A Shine on Your Shoes, which
Yep.
had an original script by Leeds, but I had the task of arranging the Dietz and Schwartz song catalog, the people that gave us That's Entertainment, Dancing in the Dark, and on and on.
Okay.
Then, more recent than that, we wrote our totally original musical and finally got it up onto stage for real this time. And that was Carol of the Birds. And that was very exciting because it was totally ours, based on a book that's in public domain, but Leeds created a script where there was none. He's just taking a story and fleshing it out, changed locations. But I was just coming off of an operation for a significant brain tumor. And so normally we wanted to this time around write together in the same room, like George and Ira, me at the piano and Leeds with his legal pad, but not knowing how my recovery was going to be. And it was a little slow to start. I said to Leeds, I said, you go ahead, start writing some lyrics, and, do what you need to do to the script. And I'll jump in as soon as I'm able to.
Yep. So what was your first show? Sounds like it was Godspell then, right?
Well, no, our first show as musical director,
Okay.
was How to Succeed in Business Without Really
Okay.
Trying
Right, you
in
remember.
1978
Okay.
at Bay City Players. Again, though, I had played in the pit orchestra at Garber High School, and that was just before auditioning for Anything Goes at Players. Leeds was directing How to Succeed at Garber. Pat Ankney, the music director, knew of me through Bay Music Foundation. I was a scholarship winner and had been in her scholarship production of MAME, which was, a fundraiser for that scholarship that got me to Interlochen. I was in the cast of that. And then she said, hey, you come and play for me for How to Succeed. That's the first time I saw him as director. But you have to remember, as a kid, my folks were taking me to Bay City Players to see not only musicals, but plays. And I would see Leeds as an actor on stage, Leeds and many of these other people that were my stars. I mean, these were Broadway stars to me. And never knowing that I'd get to know them and work with them in all different levels. All different capacities. Yes.
What's interesting about How to Succeed, the production at Bay City Players, was Kevin was not the original music director. But our music director had problems. He was not prompt. He had a very poor attendance record. And there were times he was in no condition to do much of anything.
Oops.
And so after a week of that, my assistant director, Ginger Moore, and I went out into the critics' room. We had a little conference with each other. Then we called him back and said, so long, Charlie.
Bye-bye.
And so we asked Kevin. So he stepped in at that time.
I was fresh out of Interlochen, 18 years old. And I'm so glad that happened.
Do you have a favorite show? That's like asking a parent which child. But do you have a favorite show you did together that you felt you stretched the most and collaborated the best and whatever?
Well, that's a hard one. But I will say this is going to sound funny, but I think there were 4 we did in a row that worked so beautifully. And we were so nuts to do 4 in a row. And for me, that was going from RSVP Jerome Kern into Scrooge. Okay. Then we did Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat. And then we did Do Black Patent Leather Shoes Really Reflect Up. And they weren't too far apart. In between, Leeds played Professor Higgins and I did music for My Fair Lady, just to give us a break. Okay.
Well, right.
Yeah. But I think those 4 that we did in a very short number of years were very magical. And in fact, and Leeds will back me up on this, sometimes it's been referred to as the golden years, the golden age of Bay City Players musicals.
How about for you? How about for you, Leeds? You pretty much feel the same? Or?
I dislike choosing favorites.
I do too.
I like the one that I'm working on. And to be honest, I have never worked on a show that's caused me more work than Godspell has. But COVID is the contributing factor. I really liked How to Succeed is a favorite show of mine. Unfortunately, it's terribly misogynistic and does not get done very much anymore.
And Kevin had kind of talked to me earlier. This might be your last one together.
Well, I think we've decided to concentrate on original writing now.
Okay.
I can't say we've dabbled at it. We've done more than dabble. We've had things produced.
Right.
But I think we're at the point of our lives where our theater legacy needs to go beyond recreating and to stick with the creating, because we've proved we have something to say that audiences want to hear.
Yep. Agreed. Yeah. How do you feel, Leeds? Are you ever going to retire? Ha, ha, ha.
Well, I'm getting so old. We have, with Godspell, I particularly asked Larry Jacobs and his wife, Kelly Jacobs, to work with me.
Okay.
As directors. I didn't want them as assistant directors. Well, they both directed shows in junior high. And Larry's a former student.
Oh, okay.
They're both very capable people. Mm-hmm. And they were very agreeable. And they have been tremendously helpful to me. Because, as I said, there's an age problem that sets in with me. It's mobility as much as anything else.
Do we dare say how old you are?
Oh, sure. July
Eight.
13th, I'm 86.
That's what Kevin said. That's
Yeah.
incredible. That's incredible. Yep. And I
Yeah.
guess we didn't say, for people that might not know, early on, we didn't say that you were a music, or what do you call it, a theater teacher at what school for how long, Leeds?
I taught at Garber High School for 25 years.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All
Prior
right.
to that, I taught at 2 other schools, but I taught in Standish, where I did have a program, and I taught at Handy, where Clarence Murphy had a program.
Oh, yeah.
But he agreed to me directing one acts periodically.
Okay. All right. Let's get to Godspell, because that's what's coming up. Play, God forbid if the weather behaves, July 15 to 18 at 7 o'clock outdoors on the Wenonah Park Bandshell. And you refer to it as the 2012 version. How does it differ from the, quote, original?
Well, in 1971, what happened was the show originated as a bunch of college students getting together, and 2 people at the lead created this evening of the parables with some music. Some people saw it, and this was at Carnegie Mellon. Some people saw it and thought, wow, this might have potential to go Broadway, off Broadway. So Stephen Schwartz at the time was an up-and-comer. He was contributing to different shows. He really didn't have his own musical yet, but they knew he was a hot commodity. So he was brought into the project and really gave it the structure of a Broadway musical. Then it premiered off-Broadway first in 71. And for me, the score was more pop music of the early 70s, folksy, a little bit of rock. But it was playing off of, don't forget, we had Hair, that was the big groundbreaker. Then the following year, Jesus Christ Superstar, and then Godspell. So obviously there was influence, but musically speaking, they revived it again in 2000 off Broadway. But then 2011, Schwartz came back to revisit it and thought, you know what? We need to update some of the script, the references, but also the music arranger. Some of the styles used for some numbers could be changed without destroying the message. So, for example, Turn Back, Oh Man, that was a burlesque Mae West and all that jazz style number in the original, now has the feel of a James Bond spy thriller number. And then We Beseech Thee, which was more of a down home, hoedown, country western, giddy up go song, now is turned into a disco number. So those little changes, though, really lift the material up. And we have to realize that many people younger they don't know Godspell. We know it,
right?
But they don't know a Godspell. So what's this about? So, and from a technical standpoint in the music, what was simple chords and harmonies for the singers in 71, now the arrangements have multiple layers of vocal parts going from 4 to 6 to 8, because they did this with 10 people, which is usually the traditional way of doing it, meaning that 8 of the people are the main ensemble vocalists, and Judas and Jesus aren't. They usually sing more solo or lead things. Okay.
Yep.
Well, when you have these Broadway types and you got 8-part music and they can each hold their own part, that's fine. But in our case, we have a cast of 18, and so there are balance issues. How many sopranos do I use here? How many got? So it was a little bit of well, let's just say, when Leeds says Godspell was a lot of work, our pre-production work was probably as difficult as any show I've ever worked on. The planning, and COVID was just the icing on the cake. And Leeds can explain, because like I said, normally this is done with 10, but he can tell you how he talked me into going with casting 18.
And Leeds, you also said when we were talking earlier before we went live, the stage is twice as wide and twice as deep as Bay City Players, correct?
Right. The shell has it's 60 feet across at the front, and runs 35 feet deep. And our players stage, when we open the extensions to the proscenium, is 32, and usually it's 27. And we usually perform in a distance, 16 to 18 feet
Yep.
up stage.
Yep.
So it was the 18 people we cast, it were an absolute blessing.
Yeah.
It would have been so foolish of us to try and fill that space with 10 people. Plus, the whole story would get small. The whole performance would get intimate. There's nothing intimate about a bandshell in a park.
Okay.
So all of these things work to our advantage. Some of the work for me was that now that the way the script was written, say a character named Robin had this dialogue. She told this whole story. And then what other people might respond during the course of it. But though somebody who might respond would be one person, now we're trying to satisfy 18 people. So I didn't rewrite anything. I reassigned things so that everybody participates equally. Well, not equally. Some have bigger solo, duet, trio numbers than others. But everybody participates greatly, especially since, except for 2 numbers in the show, the ensemble sings in 15 of them.
Oh, nice.
Other
Okay.
15. So they are never without performing in a number.
Yeah.
Unless they're Jesus, and he's got the 2 solos.
He's got the solos. Okay. So, and why did it move to the bandshell? Was that all part of COVID? Because you didn't know if you could be inside type thing?
That was the whole thing.
Yeah.
In March, no, before March, I'm going to have to say sometime around January, I was at a board meeting for players, and our treasurer, Tracy Teisch, mentioned that Mike Bacigalupo had offered an opening in the park if we were interested in taking it for July. Well, I overheard that, and I thought, considering the fact that it is 6 months away, and considering the fact that it's outdoors, maybe this should be something we'd look into. So I contacted Kevin and asked if he were interested. He said yes. And then we prepared a proposal to the board, which you need to do. They approved. And so we had this. And the first thing we had to do was, now that we had thought we'd do it, is go see where we're doing it and see the size of the theater. A little backwards perhaps, but sometimes ignorance is bliss. So we saw that, and then we moved totally into the COVID thing. Auditions were COVID auditions. They created their own videos, singing a song, reciting a nursery rhyme, sending that in to us. When we wound up rehearsing, we are doing our very best to socially distance. Everyone's wearing masks to sing and talk in rehearsal.
Yep.
We did all that we could, and COVID was the driving factor in all of that.
Yep.
Plus casting the show in February for a show in July.
Yeah, exactly.
And we can't rehearse them that long. So obviously there are great times off, and we don't want them to lose what they've already gained last week. But we don't want to wear them out before we get to the
final. So I'm going to remind people again, it's July 15 to 18, 7 o'clock. You bring your own seating at the Wenonah Park Bandshell, which is on the, I think everybody knows where that on the river. Yep. Tickets are general admission, 20 for adults and 10 for students. And you can go on the Bay City Players either Facebook page or web page to get tickets. Anything else you want to add about your career or the show?
Well, the gates open at 6, in case people want to know, because you bring your own seating. The sooner you get there, more choice of area to sit. I have a 5-piece rock band for the show, which is fun for me. I haven't played in a a rock band since high school, probably. And even then, it was just as a guest on Pinball Wizard, okay? So, you know, that's about it. But I have some good friends that are coming back, some that are former students at Garber High School, once again, that will make a lot of fun for it. I also want to mention that as Leeds has Kelly and Larry Jacobs, I have Kathy and Jim Pulaski as my ears out in the auditorium as we were rehearsing as co-music directors. Because, as you know, Janet, after my operation for my brain tumor, I now only hear in my
Here.
left side.
Yep.
And I catch just about everything, but it's nice to have another set
Yep.
of ears
Yep.
that I trust. And I've worked with Jim and Kathy for a long time. So I'm very grateful to have them in my corner and in my ear, so to speak.
Your ears.
Yeah.
So from rehearsing, not even seeing each other, probably rehearsing at the Players, was it hard to adapt to the bigger stage, or did you have it all in your mind how it would look?
To be honest, I had it in my mind.
Yeah.
Basically, they rehearsed with the same design, and it was just a question of opening it.
Opening it. Okay. Got it.
And we reached a point where what we rehearsed on Players stage didn't fit Players stage. It was larger so that they were more comfortable.
Okay.
So they made the adjustment amazingly well. They are, and
Yeah.
they are delighted. They show up and they are having the best time imaginable.
Yeah.
Good. Good. Okay. I think that will do it. So it's been a pleasure speaking to both of you, and let's hope we get good weather. Okay.
Very
All
good.
right.
Thank you, Janet.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Janet.